You need more referrals, but you're tired of nagging your team to ask for referrals, and guess what? They're tired of hearing you nag about asking for referrals. So what do you do about it? That's what we're going to talk about today on Growth Profits. Stay with us. Hi folks, I'm Sean Crabtree.
And I'm Cameron Bailey.
We don't want to change the way you do business.
We want to change the way you're thinking about your business.
We want you to have better results, happier clients, and make more money.
Let's get it started.
And welcome back to Growth Profits, the show that comes to you every single week with ways for you to have, as you already know, happier clients, better results, making more money, and enjoying the ride. Today we're going to talk about referrals. Everybody on earth knows that you need more referrals. Why? Because clients or customers that are referred to you are a much more qualified particular prospect than somebody who comes to you from cold marketing. Somebody who comes to you by way of somebody else who you've done great work for is a much more qualified lead. It's a warmer lead. It feels better for you. It feels better for them. Everybody on earth needs more referrals. So what's the challenge? Well, here's the challenge. You're sick and tired of asking your team to get you referrals. They're sick and tired of hearing you ask. Why is this such a big issue? Well, you know what? Here's what we've learned over the years. One of the reasons that your team is so challenged, let's say, for asking referrals is because they don't have a systematic way to do it. It doesn't feel natural. At the end of the day, it feels like they're coming from a place of desperation. It doesn't feel comfortable. So what do you do about it? Well, here's what we're going to talk about today. Specifically, I want to give you 3 things that you can do that can not only make asking for referrals more fun, I said it, Mr. Producer, more fun. More fun. And you're thinking to yourself, no, it can never be fun. But alas, I'm telling you, we can show you how to make it more fun. And along the way, I want you to understand how it can be not nearly as difficult. And I want you and everybody on your team to understand how easy it can be. If you already understand the value of a referral versus somebody who comes to you from a cold marketing scenario, then what do you do about it? Well, here's the first thing that you need to do, and the first place that most people mess up. They never have a systematic, well-orchestrated approach. And so what happens is it becomes a nag. Hey, we need to ask for referrals. Everybody goes, yeah, let's ask for referrals. And then it becomes drudgery and people feel like they're being nagged and other people feel like they're doing the nagging. So that doesn't really work. So what do? You create a well-orchestrated plan. Now, what I mean by that is this. Eliminate as many variables as possible when you come up with this plan. Think about this in coming up with your plan. Number 1, you're not going to ask every single person for a referral. Or maybe you ask every single person for a referral, but you have it in 2 separate lanes. One of them is a very casual, ask everybody for a referral, but the other one is a very well orchestrated, targeted approach for asking for a referral. And so by that I mean you're looking specifically for the clients that you have that really love you. They see value in what it is that you do. They've been tremendously helped. They are a raging advocate for you, for your services, and for your team, and for your time, and all of that sort of thing. Targeting those people right away, that's the first step to creating that systematic approach. Who is that patient, that customer, that client? What are the detailed ways? How do I say that, Mr. Producer? What are the... Create a picture of exactly, does that work?
That works.
Create a picture of exactly the kind of raging advocate that you have who is already a customer or a client. As detailed as possible, give a few examples so that everybody on your team knows who those people are and point out the things that make them a raging advocate. And then create that systematic approach that is around identifying who those people are on a daily or a weekly basis and target who has the best relationship, and so who is going to seek out that referral. If you've targeted the person, you don't want everybody on the team asking that person for a referral. Create a very targeted way to approach that. The other thing you want to figure out in creating your systematic approach to that is Do you need a crutch? And by a crutch, I mean, do you need a visual aid? Do you need something tangible that you can give away, a business card? Something like that you can use in the orchestration of it. The third thing you want to do is, if that crutch makes it easier, figure that out. But the third thing you want to do is make sure that the approach toward getting that referral is the same every single time. So you can measure and learn from each other about what's working and what's not. Now that brings me to number 2. You got to reduce this to a strategy. As I said, number 1, you have to create a plan for how it looks, who it is we're targeting, who's going to do the targeting individually for each person. How does the orchestration and the approach look? Get all of that down on paper. Here's the number 2 thing, and this is probably the most important thing. Forget asking for the referral.
What's that mean?
Mr. Producer said, say what? Well, here's what I'm saying. Get your focus off of asking for the referral. Now, ultimately, that is your goal, but it's not your number 1 outcome. Here's your number 1 outcome. Make sure that you and every person on your team become really great at seeking out compliments. So the goal is not to get to referral. The goal is to become really great at seeking out wonderful, heartfelt compliments. Now, here's the great thing. When you become really great at seeking out compliments, then the worst thing that could happen is you got all of these customers and clients and patients out there who are giving you compliments all the time. Well, who doesn't love that? There's nothing bad that can come from that. The other good part is when you get that great heartfelt acknowledgement and compliment, that's the thing you want to turn into a request for referral. And if we say it real fast, like it makes sense, but when you break it down for what really makes that comfortable, here's the thing. Most people get really uncomfortable in asking for a referral because they don't have a springboard to get them to that place. So it feels like they're coming across as desperate, right? When one of your current clients gives you a really heartfelt compliment, something that just warms your soul, then it's not only the very natural thing, it's almost kind of expected that you would turn that into, thank you very much, who else do you know? It's just the most natural thing in the world because the basis for the request is not baseless. The basis for the quest is based on a wonderfully heartfelt acknowledgement and a wonderful compliment that you just got. So it's already based in something. It's not coming out of the blue. It's just a very comfortable, very natural, almost an expected thing. And that's the way it might go. Now, so how do you get great at seeking out compliments? You know what? You just become really good at asking, right? Don't you just love the way John... let's say you're in a heating and air company, right? And you are the receptionist and you're answering the phone and someone calls in to say, hey, listen, John just left here and I don't know, he left his wrenches or whatever. Or maybe they're just saying, hey, I just want to thank you. John just left here. Maybe they're calling to say, hey, John just left here. He said something about you guys are going to send me a bill, whatever, right? You get past that and go, don't you just love the way John takes care of you? And get really good at asking for those compliments. You already know the things that you hear people say. Your current clients are saying great things about John. You know that's something that they recognize. Your expectation is that this person recognized it too. Everybody just says that John is so nice. Don't you just love John, right? You're seeking that compliment, Mr. Producer. Does that make sense? Yeah. And ultimately, you're looking for that person to go, oh, I was really concerned about my heating and air system. John showed up. He was not only courteous, he was absolutely the nicest thing in the world. It really has been a pleasure. I'm going to be using that. I'm going to be using you guys for all of my heating and air needs moving forward. That is an invitation for you to ask for. Thank you so, and here's the way you handle that. Acknowledge what this client just said, and then flip it and turn it into a request for referral. Thank you so much for saying that. You know what? I want to be sure and tell John as soon as I see any wonderful things that you said about it. I'm curious, Miss Jones, who else do you know that might also love John? And then you wait. And you wait, right? And that's the way you ask for referral. I hope that in communicating this right now, you can see it's a very natural thing. It really is sort of like an invitation. It's a comfortable kind of thing. What you don't want to do is ask, do you know anybody else? And you should go ahead and write that down, because as you already know, if you listen to anything that we talk about on these and any of our other channels, you never, ever, ever want to ask can you say it with me, Mr. Producer?
I can.
You can't? You cannot?
No, I don't know the whole list.
You never want to ask a close-ended question. Do you, did you, are you, will you, won't you, would you, could you, should you, have you? Do you, did you, are you, will you, won't you, would you, could you, should you, have you? Those are all close-ended questions. If I ask, do you know anybody that might like John? Okay, the answer could be, no, but I'll think about it, or whatever, right? Who do you know? Who do you know? That's a very open-ended thing. You're looking for an answer, and you'll be surprised. I've tested this over the last 22 years, and you'll be surprised at the percentage of the time. If you ask it 100% of the time after a great compliment, who do you know? That invitation is almost met with this desire to give you a name. And you'll be surprised at the percentage of time that you'll have somebody actually say, you know what? I was actually just talking to my neighbor the other day. Well, who's that? Right? And that brings us to our next thing. Number 3. You got to follow up immediately. If you get a name, now let me go into this one just a little bit. If you get a name, that's great. You follow up immediately. You immediately turn that around and you contact that person. I was just talking to Miss Jones. She had some wonderful things to say about John, and what we did for her in terms of our heating and air, in terms of her heating and air challenges. And so she told me just to contact you and introduce myself. I just wanted you to know, et cetera, and you go through all of it like that. The trick is follow up immediately. Now, what if you don't get a name? That's okay. You have to realize that when somebody comes to you by way of referral, either in an immediate situation like that, or maybe it's after the fact, right? You've planted the seed. The invitation is there. The desire is to meet that invitation with some action. So if they don't have somebody right now, when somebody does come to you and they say, Miss Jones sent me, you cannot let that lay around. You have to follow up immediately with the person who sent you that referral. So if Cameron comes in and says, yeah, Miss Jones sent me. Oh, we love Miss Jones, right? Any friend of Miss Jones is a friend of ours. You turn around as soon as you get an opportunity and follow up with some sort of correspondence, thanking Miss Jones, and make it personal and make it specific. If I were you, I would have a few sentences already in my computer or already laid out so you can do it on a handwritten note, right? Handwritten is better. If you do a whole bunch of business and you want to do it through the computer, that's fine too. Handwritten is better. But what you want to do is acknowledge the person, dear Miss Jones, right? Also, you want to acknowledge the person that they referred. Dear Miss Jones, thank you so much for referring Mr. Smith. The trust that you place in us is something we don't take lightly. Again, thank you very much. Any friend of yours is a friend of ours. Something like that. The trick is to do it immediately and make it personalized. So what are we talking about? Here's what we're talking about. We're talking about getting referrals on a consistent basis. How to do it in a way that it doesn't feel like drudgery, in a way that it doesn't feel like you're nagging the people on your team. It's a natural way to do it. You don't feel like you're coming from desperation. And we talked about 3 big things. Number 1, you got to create a systematic approach so that you're doing it the same way every single time and everybody on your team is coming from the same place. You're looking to remove the variables, right? You're probably going to target specific people. You're going to identify as detailed as possible who that raging advocate is in your current client base, and those are the people that you're going to target. You're also going to specify how you're going to go about who's the person on your team who's going to target that. Second thing we talked about is making sure that the focus is not on asking for the referral. The focus is on what, Mr. Producer? See, I've already caught you not listening. Mr. Producer is not listening. There you go. So what do you think about over there? Jack Daniels. No, I know you're not thinking about Jack Daniels. The second thing is take your focus off of asking for the referral. Put your focus 100% on seeking the compliment. Like I said a moment ago, the worst thing that could happen is you get some great compliments. Isn't that wonderful? We talked about a little bit how to do that. Put the focus on asking for the referral. Put the focus on seeking the compliment, then flipping that to asking for a referral. You got me all messed up here, Mr. Producer. And then the third thing is you got to follow up immediately. Again, if you become really great at seeking compliments and then asking who do you know on the spot, you'll be surprised at the percentage of time that you actually get a name. Follow up immediately. If you don't get a name, that's okay. When somebody comes in as a referral, you immediately follow up on the person who sent you the referral. I didn't say this a moment ago, but I would go to the next step. And after you've dealt with that particular client, you know what? Send them a thank you note and refer to the person that referred them. Dear Mr. Smith, thanks so much. It was a pleasure seeing you last week. Any friend of Miss Jones is certainly a friend of ours. Look forward to seeing you in the future. Something like that, so you're tying it all together and you're acknowledging it. But again, the trick is immediately follow up. And those are the top 3 things that are going to make the fact that you need referrals, you're able to get referrals when it's not drudgery. At the end of the day, it's all about you having happier clients, better results, making more money, and enjoying the ride. And that's why we come to you every single week in Growth Profits. Thanks for joining me. Hope you took lots of notes. I'm Sean Crabtree. Look forward to seeing you next time right here, same time, same channel on Growth Profits. Have a great week.